Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Elephant Exposed. I am your host, Mr. TNTBS or CJ Jones. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys two very special clips, I think, in my opinion. Um, and we're going to talk about the update. That's right. I have an update about uh, Mr. R. Kelly and his RICO case. I have been keeping my eyeball out for quite some time now about following his cases and so forth and everything. And a lot of people, or society as a whole, has been basically has written Mr. R. Kelly off due to all the allegations, due to the alleged crimes. And sometimes, even whenever these he was found guilty on these litany of charges, some of those charges was extremely questionable to me. And one set of those charges, I have to say it like that, um, it really just didn't make any sense. It's one thing for you to be convicted as an individual for the individual things that you do. Um, but it's a whole nother ball of wax when you're talking about a corporation or a group of people all working together under the umbrella of act of appearing innocent, but in essence, that corporation or that company or that group of people is really doing something else that is not only horrendous and terrible, but illegal and everything else. And that's where your RICO comes in. So I'm going to be sharing a clip to you with you guys today about about that very thing. So without further ado, this is someone I've been following on YouTube, and they can further break it down.
You are welcome to HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show there we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. Like we mentioned in our previous video release, the New York appeal today did touch the RICO Act violation allegations, the Mann Act stories by government, and the rather bogus forced labor accusations that were all fraudulently introduced into the case against R. Kelly. Bonjean came in strongly against the idea that government can prove the rather alien RICO charges, without showing that the members involved in this had a common illegal purpose. In her words she said, quote unquote, "My name is Jennifer Bonjean and I represent Robert Kelly." Like every RICO indictment seemingly in history, the government charged the defendant for being a member of an enterprise that had a common purpose of carrying out an illegal or illicit activity. And immediately after she outlined this, a male judge who seemed overprepared for her retaliated, asking whether she was challenging the jury instruction which didn't say that the RICO enterprise must have an illegal purpose. But then quickly and rather smartly, Bonjean proceeded to refer to the United States versus Boyle case that the judge could easily use to relate and understand why she insists on her argument, mentioning that during this particular case, the jury instruction was actually challenged even though it didn't set out exactly what the structure of the enterprise should be, citing that the jury doesn't necessarily have to present an instruction with such level of specificity. Meaning that even though the jury instruction left out the element of a common purpose, it's not a scapegoat for the government to abscond from proving it. And then the judge came in to say what Bonjean meant is that in fact in the absence of a common purpose, there would be no RICO enterprise, a question to which she agreed, suggesting it would make no sense of the statute if there was no common purpose. And guess what? Bonjean is right. There is no way the RICO statute could have been enacted to hunt down legal enterprises whose common purpose had not transformed from conducting legal to illegal business with a common purpose. Because using common sense, the RICO Act was not intended to punish individuals but rackets of people engaged in active criminal activity.
And that's one of the points that I was making. So when the jury came back, well, number one, the purpose of a judge is to interpret the law for the jury. So when the jury received their instruction, they have to work within the parameters of what is given in the instruction by the judge. And a lot of cases, in a whole lot of cases, sometimes that judge, I will say it, restricts or set parameters that kind of tie the juror's hand because of the way that the case was presented. And trust and believe, everybody that has access to a television, a laptop, or whatever they use for their news feeds and stuff are very, very well aware of different people's reputation. And for some reason, it seemed like it was the season to go after R. Kelly, whether it was personal or whatever the case may be. And the thing about it is that what was the big struggle for celebrities like R. Kelly was that people was trying to having difficulty separating the man versus the artist. I would hear that a whole lot. And they were going by a lot of hearsay. But when you're talking about a court of law, it's not just hearsay. It's not just rumor. It's not just, oh, well, things appear, or you can imagine. That's in the courtroom of public opinion. That's in social media. But when you're talking about legal things, you can't go by your feelings. You can't go by your emotions. You must go by the law, evidence, things that can be proven. So it is without a shadow of a doubt that things like this happen. These people knew exactly what they were doing when they were going after R. Kelly. They had already set the pace and already set the public mindset to get out the R. Kelly and, come up with all these witnesses and things like that. And they were paid. You know it, I know it, we saw it, and most of them are regretting it right now. But the damage is done. But I'll get back into that a little later. Let's go ahead and play this on out.
When the judge insisted on deflecting from her point, mentioning that the jury instruction did not demand that the government proved a common illegal purpose, Bonjean highlighted that while the jury instruction didn't, the indictment did when it mentioned the various common purposes, and guess what? She is so correct. In the indictment, which was written purposely to make R. Kelly look so guilty when they knew well he wasn't, they made mention of the common purpose and went on to list both the purposes of managing his music business and the illegal ones, all as common purposes. By doing this in the indictment, therefore, the government acknowledges that in fact proving a common illegal purpose is crucial for the RICO enterprise to exist.
The Boyle court said that's fine. It doesn't have to be. The jury doesn't have to be instructed with that level of specificity. In this case,
but you're arguing, it seems to me, that absent an illegal purpose, there can be no RICO enterprise.
Yes, because it would make nonsense of the statute.
Okay, but is it so? I guess A, what's the authority for that, and B, isn't that really a challenge to the jury instruction?
I don't believe it is. I think that.
Well, did the district court tell the jury that they had to find an illegal purpose or there could be no enterprise?
No, but the indictment did, and the indictment was incorporated
No, the
into-
indictment listed a series of purposes.
Yeah, a series of purposes pled in the conjunctive, and the jury instruction, which had the indictment incorporated into it,
Yep.
pled that there were 4 different purposes, 2 of which were legal essentially, and 2 which were illegal.
The government and the trial judge who agreed to this indictment therefore did not help this inquisitive appeal judge so much when Way recognized the importance of the very same thing the appeal judge is suggesting was not necessary. And that is the common purpose to commit crime. At this point the rather inquisitive appeal judge did ask a question that was in my opinion quite mediocre when he suggested that had the government just listed only the legal common purposes, Bongin's view is that that would not be sufficient for a RICO indictment, and guess what? By asking that, he technically answered his own question.
He did.
There is no way to impose a RICO indictment on an enterprise only engaged in legal common purposes. And then Bongin clarified that while defendant could have had some of his employees do errands for him that helped his personal goals, the government did not provide sufficient evidence that R. Kelly's staff in fact acted in knowledge of what he was doing, and with a common purpose to have him orchestrate the alleged crimes related to producing CP. At this point a female judge who seemed more open-minded and impartial did chip in, and she suggested that what Bongin was indeed trying to do was make a legal argument, that in fact to charge a RICO enterprise has to have an illegal purpose, as well as that in R. Kelly's case, the illegal purpose was charged but there was insufficient evidence of it, and guess what? Bongin simply answered that's correct. Finally someone in the courtroom understood her in whatever she was trying to explain. But then this whole argument leaves the whole world wondering why the entire United States Department of Justice cannot understand that the legality or illegality of the enterprise was not the subject matter here, but only mentioned to make judges understand that any corporation may qualify for a RICO investigation. Not that even if no illegal common purpose was found, it would still qualify as a RICO enterprise. Yes, we all agree that even a school can turn into an instrument of illegality with a common purpose, and so can a bank, a media company, car dealership, or any other legitimate organization including government itself.
Yeah.
However, investigations must be done to find proof of a common illegal purpose in these legal enterprises to qualify them as RICO and not the other way round. And Bongin clarified this during the appeal when she mentioned that in fact the enactor of the law was not focusing on whether the enterprise was illegal or not legal in its existence, but on whether such a legally existing organization such as a government or news corporation could turn exclusively criminal, and not whether it could be exclusively legal. The defense's position is that this is an organization which the government failed to prove had any criminal purpose. By insisting, however, the government is trying to suggest that for a RICO enterprise to exist, it need not be rooted in criminality at all, which according to Bongin would fly in the face of the enactor and President Richard Nixon, whose intentions when passing the law was never to charge such organizations which are busy doing their job, only because an individual among them was involved in a crime. Asked whether the government was able to prove that in fact R. Kelly's employees were involved in recruiting these women for the illegal purpose of filming CP, Bongin responded suggesting that the government was only able to reflect on instances where an employee could have passed on a phone number to a woman backstage, an act which is not necessarily recruitment considering the purpose was always for the music business promotions only, and none among them knew that behind the scenes R. Kelly was involved with these women in the alleged manner. There is no evidence that any one of R. Kelly's staff invited a woman backstage knowing they were underage or asking for their age and purposely soliciting them for R. Kelly's sexual pleasure or to illegally film CP. Nothing like that ever happened, Bongin concluded. Bongin did not forget to mention that these employees of R. Kelly actually did testify and say what happened behind closed doors was never something they understood. And nothing put them to any notice that what was happening behind these doors was in any way illegal. So technically, Bongin was much of the time educating the appeal court on what RICO actually is, and she did a commendable job.
Yes, she did.
We will be bringing you the deeper facts mentioned in this appeal session in our next video releases with more intricate detail going forward. Stick with us.
And that's one of the main concerns that I had whenever they brought up this particular um charge. All the other charges like the child pornography, they, that's what they were referring to when they're saying CP, different things like that. We live in a very political world right now where, they can't even say certain things. But here's the thing about this. I come from a generation, what was good for you is good for me. What's good for me is good for you. The one thing I have noticed about our justice system is that it picks and chooses who it wants to really uh run the gambit on and who it doesn't. Um, we just saw, if you're following anything in the news media, anything like that, the whole uh verbal chastisement of Fani Willis, even though she's not on trial. But Trump and all of his followers and everything are. And there was almost 3 months, at least 2 months of hearing of a motion that should not have ever even happened. But just simply by Trump being who he is, he was given all types of leeway and excuses and delays and so forth, completely unheard of in any other body else's life. So there's a lot of obvious contradiction here that's happening. And we're seeing it play out in our faces day in and day out. There was a smaller clip that I was going to share concerning a lawyer that pretty much is following the same news that I am that I follow. But it was it's just him just saying that he never lost faith in R. Kelly, and he believed R. Kelly from the very start. And he just wanted for R. Kelly that if and whenever all of this stuff comes to surface and he is completely exonerated, don't go back to the same people that he once trusted. And to me, that would be common sense. But because unfortunately, guys, we live in a society that is very fickle. And all it takes is the accusation and the appearance of something. And the public in general is so lazy to where it's just, oh, well, such and such said it, so it must be true. Or you have such a bias within yourself. You want for that individual to be guilty or found liable or whatever, just due to your own personal belief or whatever. Instead of just following something all the way through. And when you're talking about someone going through the justice system, look at facts. You can think about the person, as you may, but you literally have to put those personal feelings to the side and go by what was presented, things that were proven and everything. And just like how, and I know for us older generation, you will get what I'm about to say. And if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Johnny Conquer. Now, I'd said that sort of like with like a tongue-in-cheek type of tone, but that it really does fit, guys. And regardless as to how, again, I'm coming right back to what I was saying before. For something like a RICO to be placed on an individual, and especially in a case of R. Kelly, where everything was that he was accused of was circumstantial at best. But then you had like these individuals, I forget who they are, these two ladies that started like the Me Too group movement and everything, and da. And then you had surviving R. Kelly, and people writing books and so forth. All of that stuff, you have to be able to prove. And then you have people going back and forth about, oh, but what about the tape, and what about this, what about that? That girl was legal. Yeah. Now, as far as the ethical side of it goes, um, you know, to each his own. And just because you may not agree with, doing grown up stuff or whatever with a significantly younger person or a barely legal person, everything, people have their preferences, but when you're talking about legal matters or even charging someone, overcharging them, there are constitutional amendments that protects you from things like that. And the more you dig into and really follow this case, the more you will see that the government did their job. They have totally destroyed R. Kelly's reputation. He's still making music and everything, but it was his reputation that they really, really went after. And I feel like they was very successful in attacking and destroying. And we're just looking for fairness here on Elephant Exposed. And that's what I feel like he deserved. And I feel like anybody deserves that. It's fairness. Yes, even Trump. As much as I don't like him as an individual, when it comes to the courts and different things like that, you still have to be fair. You still have to be legal. And I hope he gets exactly what he deserves, because what's good enough for us should be good enough for him. And the same way that the government would treat us or any other presidential candidate, be it Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, that's the same thing. That's the same outcome that should be for the disgraced former president. With that being said, don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe button, and hit that notification bell for new content. And I will see you guys on the other side. Thank you very much for watching.